temporary protective status, and every time he opens his mouth to talk about Venezuelans, he portrays them as gang members.
So Trump is doing exactly what he wants.
Well, we know they're violent people because...
How do we know?
Because, because
they said, oh, we're looking at some of their tattoos, which means they have a gang affiliation, so they can be deported. It's a slippery slope that we don't want to open up.
But they're illegal
immigrants,
right?
That's why we have a process.
So, just so that people know, because you both have referred to it, let's just show, we have some of the video that have been released over the last couple of days showing, I guess, certain agents, federal agents, shaving the heads of detainees, et cetera, et cetera. These are the images that you're talking about.
Well, you don't know what... Right, or that you're right, and we should coddle foreign terrorists who have come in.
Nobody has said that.
Then you will win.
No. Do not put words
Then you will win. But if they decide to...
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this panel. Trump got some new racist red meat to throw to his voters to distract them. Let's check this out, and we'll talk about it.
But it seems like what Dante is saying, and what seems self-evident, is that there is a process for determining whether that's true or not, because it's not obvious that immigration enforcement is like carrying out a war, overseas somewhere in Syria or elsewhere.
Well, I think a few things. Number one, we've had a number of instances now on immigration and other matters where individual district court judges are trying to effectively substitute their judgment for that of what the White House believes is core function of the presidency as designated by the Constitution. That's a key question and probably needs to be sorted out by the Supreme Court someday. That's number one. Number two, on the issue of these deportations, it's quite clear the president believes he is keeping the United States and its citizens safe from non-citizens who are in the country illegally, first of all, and second of all, who have a long history of committing very, very violent acts, from murder to rape to sex trafficking and so on.
Don't you think they have to prove that, though? Because, I mean, I don't think anybody disagrees about their ability to deport people who are murderers or rapists or whatever, but don't they have to actually prove that those people are who they say they are and that they've carried out those acts of those criminal acts?
Well, we know they're violent people because...
How do we know?
Because... because their records have already been pulled. I mean, these people were violent.
I think that the court,
from where they came from, and now they're here illegally. So
one of the things that happened in court today,
they are?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Have
one
they
of the
even
things
given
that
us their
happened
identity?
in the court today is that the lawyers for the government couldn't say really who these people were.
And interesting enough, what they tried to use is they said, oh, we're looking at some of their tattoos, which means they have a gang affiliation, so they can be deported. It's a slippery slope that we don't want to open up.
But they're illegal immigrants,
That's why we have
right?
a process for everything.
But they're illegal immigrants, yes?
So actually, again...
Like, what are you saying? So they're illegal immigrants with tattoos, right? Like, is this guy an idiot? Like, this is just insane. And Trump keeps releasing these videos out of Hispanics getting arrested. And he recently released a new one. And they shows it like Hispanics with tattoos getting arrested and their heads being shaved off. Like, we all know why he's doing this. This is like a Christmas morning for Republican voters. Is seeing Hispanics or brown people or black people, for that matter, being arrested or mistreated in one way or another. Hispanics that voted for Trump, still happy about this vote?
The state of affairs. They're saying they're bad people, so they can get out of here.
It would be fine if we knew that, but we don't.
The quotas is all fun until the rabbit has the gun, right? What if somebody turns that on one of us or anybody
we're citizens.
else?
They're not citizens.
But there's people who are here.
The state of affairs in America is one that citizens are being stopped and questioned. I met with a U.S. citizen who was stopped at a subway station, questioned by ICE, detained for 3 hours. This is the state of affairs in America. So it's not necessarily about who's on that plane who may have a criminal record. We don't know their names, their first names and last name, but it is really about those that are not on the plane that could find themselves one day on a plane.
You all are conflating different groups of people. U.S. citizens are different than non-citizens, and people here under certain status are much different than people who came here illegally, particularly if you came here illegally and you were violent where you came from. And I think the Trump administration frankly has a political and maybe even a legal mandate to exit from the country violent, illegal aliens.
So, a few things.
And he just ignored the racism that the Hispanic dude pointed out there. Sorry, I don't know his name. Completely ignored it. That U.S. citizens that, let me guess, they were Hispanic, are getting stopped and questioned, and in some cases, unlawfully arrested, mistakenly. And like every time they show these videos and they talk about this, why is it never a white European being arrested or deported? Republican voters, you don't find that interesting whatsoever, that they never show you Europeans, white people, or any white people, Canadian, anyone being arrested. It's always Hispanics.
First of all, Trump is the distractor in chief. So it benefits him that we're having this argument and that we are talking about and we're watching the video of these supposed violent criminals going into El Salvador, because that means we're not talking about the stock market tanking. We're not talking about the 10-year-old U.S. citizen girl in the midst of cancer treatment who was deported with her father, her parents, back to Mexico. We are not talking about the little 11-year-old girl who committed suicide in Texas because she was being bullied because her parents were immigrants. We're not talking about those things. We're watching this very graphic video. We don't know their identity. Honestly, as an immigrant, and I know, Adriano, you are an immigrant as well, I don't know a single immigrant in this country who doesn't want violent criminals booted out. Because if you come to this country and you do something terrible, you really don't deserve to be here. This country is for people who come to live in freedom, who come to seek opportunity, who come for a better future for their children. And I want to say this, out of Venezuelans, 0.09 of the Venezuelan immigrants in this country are suspected, not proven, suspected Tren de Aragua. That means that the vast majority who've now had their temporary protective status taken out are good, decent people contributing to this society. Most Venezuelans, I know, Venezuelan Americans in Miami, and Doral actually, where Trump has his club, voted for Trump, big supporters of Trump. And since Trump got in, first thing he did was send Rick Grenell to go negotiate with Maduro, who lost an election, stole it, and Rick Grenell and Trump have legitimized him and normalized him.
Well,
Removed
can I please
temporary protective
respond?
status, and every time he opens his mouth to talk about Venezuelans, he portrays them as gang members.
So Trump is doing exactly what.
And before we get to this MAGA moron, I mean, Trump at this moment is trying to get rid of birthright citizenship, which for sure will deport some of those Hispanics that voted out Trump. Like, let's just be real. If Republicans could get rid of legal American citizens that have been here for decades in this country, he would. And I said the same thing about black people. If he can get rid of them, he would. And actually, since they can't get rid of black people, they do everything they can to stifle their growth and achievements and pull them back as much and whenever possible. If they're inching forward, Republicans, these racist white supremacists, are there to pull them back. I mean, white nationalists and Republicans, they go together like peanut butter and jelly.
What he was elected to do. He is not distracted. He was elected. One of the top issues, the economy and immigration, #2 issue, according to Gallup, was why President Trump won this election. And he is focused on the fact that 84,000 people were killed by drug overdoses last year and more than 100,000 the year before that. And so we're talking about opioids. You're talking about components that are originating in China, and they're coming up through Mexico. They're coming up, they're trafficked by drugs or by gangs who do not care about the United States. And that is an act of war. And that is why the president has invoked, this debate here is about a separation of powers violation.
That is not an act of war. I think that's the crux
but this
of
is
the
what
issue.
President Trump has designated these terrorist groups as
that is
foreign
actually,
terrorist organizations.
It's actually not an act of war. I think rhetorically he can use that language if he wants to. He's a politician, he can say what he wants, but it's not actually an act of war. And so as a result of that, it has to be adjudicated in the courts whether or not he can use a law that is designed to apply to actual acts of war to do this. I mean, look,
Hold on
a second. Even the not so liberal New York Post had this headline about this, speaking to Elon Musk, who was tweeting about this weekend. Sorry, Elon, even deporting illegal gangbangers must heed the rule of law. This is not really a controversial thing because, as the congressman pointed out, there are already court cases being adjudicated right now about U.S. citizens who have been detained by ICE wrongfully, people with legal status who've been detained and sent to other parts of the country, and there's no accountability. And in this country, we have accountability.
And that's
for
what it
things
has
like
to
this.
be about here. What we're talking about here is we have laws in place. We have to follow them. We're not saying keep violent people who came to this country illegally, keep them here. We're not saying that. We want them gone.
That's what a
But at
judge
the same
said. A
time,
judge said bring them
no,
back. A
yes,
judge said bring them back.
because a rule has to be followed. We
Where
have
would you
laws
put them,
in
by the
place.
way?
But Abby,
You follow
I,
the rule.
there
You
is
go
a
to
law.
court
It's the-
system,
the
and when
law-
you
Just
prove
a
that
second,
they're
Karen. Let me
violent
let-
or that they
let me
should
let
be kicked
Dante
out,
finish.
then you deport them. But you can't make up your own rules and just bypass the judicial system. You can't ignore a judge because we have rules in place. And it's fine and dandy now because you don't like who they're targeting. But what happened when you do? When there's people who's
But
being
can I ask you
targeted,
something?
There's
What
no
happened-
illegal.
what
There's no
happened-
illegal alien. I would
what-
say let's keep here over another one. I mean, these people are here in the country illegally. First of all, second of all,
but if they're
it's a
following the
violent
rules,
population.
then they don't. Then they're following the rules.
it's due process, but
It's due
Abby, I want to
process.
go back to distraction, because the graphic scenes that you see on TV are lead to a level of distraction.
Can we show, just so that people know, because you both have referred to it, let's just show, we have some of the video that have been released over the last couple of days showing, I guess, certain agents, federal agents, shaving the heads of detainees, et cetera, et cetera. These are the images that you're talking
Well,
about.
you know, no one is against deporting a violent criminal. No immigrant is against that. But the distraction, the telenovela that's going on first between Trump and Musk, and now this, it's a distraction to the major cuts that are being forced down people's throat. It is the public policy that is being tried to be implemented. It is the executive orders, 92 plus of them that are being implemented. A good number of them are being challenged in court. This is what's happening behind the scenes. This is what's hurting the American people. This is what will hurt
I mean, I guess,
pocketbook issues.
are you arguing that this is not?
I wish I could be part of this panel because they keep throwing this word distraction. Talk about why it's a distraction. Why this is excitable for the Republican base. Why do they like seeing Hispanics bent over with their heads being shaved off and being deported? Well, what is it about that? Because let's just be real. It wouldn't have the same effect if they were doing this to a white person. In fact, I think they would think it would hurt them. Again, if you committed crimes, get out of here. But these people are not even going through due process. What, they're Hispanic and they have tattoos? And even if they have gang tattoos, are they currently in the gang? Like, and being in a gang in itself is not illegal, actually. You still have to commit crimes.
Important. Whether they
I'm
follow
saying
court
that
order.
there's due process for everyone, including the President of the United States. There's due process
Well,
for
Abby is
everybody.
saying
in
it. You
America.
guys keep saying it. Anna, you said it too. This is a distraction. It's not. This is an important issue. The fact that Trump is saying, I don't care what a judge says. I have this belief and I'm going to carry it out anyway is a huge...
That's not what he said.
let
I
me-
don't
okay,
think that's
go
what
ahead,
the
Karen.
president said. So what happened was you have the legislative branch, the Alien Enemies Act. The legislative branch passed a law that said when you have a predatory incursion or invasion, then the executive can act decisively, which is what the president did. Again, I go back to the number of 84,000 people killed by opioid overdose, drug overdose last year. That is 28 times the number of people murdered in 9/11. We went to war over 3,000 deaths in 1 year. We're talking 84,000 deaths in 1 year, 110,000 deaths the year before. That is the definition of the legislation of predatory incursion. And so you have the legislative and you have the executive acting in consort, and you have the judicial. This is a violation of the separation of powers. That is what the White
I
House
think
is
you're
arguing.
totally mixing up. You're completely mucking up the waters here, because you're talking about a statute that was implemented long before this particular moment, and honestly has never been used for a situation like this. And I think at the very least, even just to support what you're saying, the process to figure out whether or not this is legal is actually in the courts. It's actually for a district court to say, hey, let's have some hearings on this, but before you do that, don't deport people before we know whether their rights have been violated.
I'm just
But-
look,
But
this-
here's the to me what the issue is. First of all, when I say it's a distraction, it's not what he's doing, it's the way he's doing it, right? Because he could deport these people and not make a video of it and a stunt and be in cahoots with Nayib Bukele in El Salvador. He could do it a different way. It's very similar to what he did, sending supposedly Tren de Aragua people to Guantanamo, who've now had to be brought back because it was logistically impossible. But it was a big thing that he had sent undocumented immigrants to Guantanamo. Look, here's the problem, though. The problem is that there are no guardrails. And the problem is that in theory, there are supposed to be co-equal branches of government. But are the Republicans in Congress going to impeach him if he breaks the law or if he doesn't follow a judicial order? They are not. And what enforcement mechanism, realistically speaking and practically speaking, do these courts have to make the President of the United States turn a plane around?
Look, the political mechanism is we have elections. And if the American people decide that you're right, and we should coddle foreign terrorists who have come into our
Nobody
country,
has said that.
then you will win.
No. Do not put words
Then
on
you
my
will win.
mouth.
But if they decide
saying
that Trump is
anything
right
about
and that they're no different than Hamas or ISIS. If Hamas or ISIS came here and committed these same acts,
And if
we
you
would be
prove it, do
screaming.
what you need to
We
do.
would be
Yeah.
screaming to throw them out.
Scott,
If you
nobody
prove
is,
that, do
nobody
what
is
you need to do.
disagreeing with you that criminals should be deported. The problem is that the government has not been able to prove that all of these people are who they say they are. And that's at the very minimum what they ought to be able to do. Everybody agrees. You're arguing with the wrong people about whether or not.
Can I ask
But
something?
they don't.
Are
They
you
don't.
doubting
They
that
don't even have
they're
the same
gang
rights.
No, but
They're not.
I don't know.
They are
There were
not
people,
US
hold
citizens.
on. There were
They are
people
not
saying they were
US
Venezuelans.
They're
They were
not US
Venezuelans.
citizens, and so they
Anna,
don't
May
even
I
just a
have
speak,
the
second.
please?
process.
You really are.
Both of you
Everyone
should
has
stop
the
speaking
right to
because
due
we
process.
have to go
There were
to break.
Venezuelans sent to Guantanamo who were
Anna, just a
supposedly
second.
Tren de Aragua members who were not. So yes, we are wondering who these people are.
It's
Just let us know. Let there be
to be
transparency.
continued. To be continued.
That's all it's about. It's just a due process thing. Are these people who you're saying they are? Because you've already made mistakes with American citizens. And again, this is a distraction more than anything. Whenever the Republicans or Trump is doing something that's not going well, whether it's the tariffs, whether it's Doge cutting all these federal jobs, they throw racist red meat out there. They've been doing a lot of anti-DEI, removing black people's pictures from the White House. Surprisingly, when the stock market starts doing bad, all this racist red meat is being thrown out there to Republican voters. Republicans, do you not see how you're being played? Hispanics that voted for Trump, are you not regretting your vote for him whatsoever? Are you not seeing the way they put videos and propagandize Hispanics? It's the same way that they do this to black people and how they portray them. You're not seeing that Republicans, and believe it or not, these MAGA white people you love so much, they see you as the same as black people. Shocker, right? Stop shooting yourself in the foot. This is why I call for Hispanics to come together with black people. Both of our groups will be in a much better place. And this is a distraction. This is. Every time Trump is doing bad, he throws his racist red meat out there so that his voters are just completely ignoring everything. Like I said, it's like Christmas morning to them. Let's just be real. This is the root of it all. There's a reason why they don't show white people getting deported. There's a reason for that. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe if you're not. Really helps the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.